So I was thinking about that meme that says, hide yourself in God, so much that if a man is seeking you, that he has to go through God first to find you. And when I used to see it, I was like, that's crazy. It's absolutely insane. But now that I am living a life for God, that I am seeking God actively and actively trying to have the mind of Christ, I completely get it. The struggle, especially in today's society, is that not everybody who claims to know Christ has a relationship with Christ. Not everybody who claims to be Christian is actively pursuing the principles of Christianity, is actively pursuing a renewed mind and changed habits and allowing that old man to die and that new man who's been made whole by Christ to live. And so naturally when dating and, you know, I don't know about you, but it's not a lot of options that I have found right now that is in for men who are actively pursuing God. And so we're naturally going to come across people who aren't, who proclaim God, but don't truly know him. And when we get in these relationships, which number one, we probably shouldn't be getting into them. Well, not probably, we should not be getting into them, because once you get into a relationship with somebody who is not actively pursuing Christ, you're unevenly yoked at that point. Okay, you can't serve man and you can't serve God and mammon, right? What relationship does darkness have with light? What relationship does God have with Satan? At the end of the day, if somebody's living in sin and you're trying to live righteously, how can you actively have a true relationship? One of you is going to have to give in to the other one. And honestly, I don't know about you, but I know about me. And it's always we give in to the darkness, right? Until you are truly transformed in your mind. When you are truly transformed in your mind, then you are able to start sacrificing the flesh. But once you begin sacrificing the flesh, that other person may not be ready to live that kind of life. That other person does not have a relationship with Christ in order to pursue long-term self-sacrifice. So you have to leave that person alone. I mean, that's just that, or you're going to be living in continual habitual sin. And if you do that, then you're taking advantage of grace, right? And eventually, what does it say in Romans? That God will turn you over to your own lusts if you continue to pursue unrepented sin or pursue a life that does not reflect Christ. So if you are in a relationship that is unevenly yoked, you are probably going to have to leave that relationship unless God gives you another directive. But God has probably already told you had to leave that relationship. Now, you've made it hard because you have been trying to live on both sides in obedience while still playing with disobedience because you're not fully leaving that person alone. But you have to make a decision that you are going to have the mind of Christ. I think it's like Philippians 2:5. I think that's where it talks about having the mind of Christ. And that when you accept him, now you have his mind. And now you are able to live according to his principles. So you have to allow that person, and maybe God will work on them, maybe they won't, maybe he won't, but you have to allow that person to, number one, be able to see what life is like without you. Maybe some of the covering that was on you was placed over them, and some of that covering has to be removed so they can have their own relationship with Christ. And then number 3, you cannot be a winner of souls and preach one gospel, but be living a totally different gospel. That's the problem that Christ had with the Sadducees and the Pharisees in Matthew, I think it's Matthew 24, right? That they were preaching one, but they were living a total opposite way. So what we preach, we have to also live. I think it's Paul who says he forces his flesh to submit because he cannot disqualify himself by preaching one thing and living a totally different way. And so if you are in a relationship with somebody, a man or a woman, and you are, somebody of the opposite sex, you have to make a decision. Are you going to be like Christ and literally put aside all of your personal gratifications in order to honor and exalt God? Or are you going to live for man and allow your flesh to take you and consume you and ultimately disqualify yourself from your ultimate reward, and even disqualify yourself from the earthly reward? So the verse, back to it, it basically means that if somebody wants to find you, you're so hidden in God, you're so hidden in Christ that they have to be able to have a relationship with Christ in order to, number 1, even understand you. Number 2, to know how to treat you. And number 3, to truly know how to love you. Because ultimately, you want love. Ultimately, you want marriage. If you want love and you're a Christian, then you have to want marriage. If you're wanting romantic love, because there's no way that we can have romantic love and not be married, because with romantic love comes romantic acts, okay, and other connections. If we're going to keep this PC. But you need to be so hid and guarded under Christ that they have to seek God in order to know who you truly are. And you have to be so hidden, and you have to hide. You have to be so hidden within Christ that you know who your first priority is. And your first priority is God. That's your first priority in every relationship. And so when somebody from the outside comes in and they know God, they're, number 1, able to accept your priorities. Number 2, able to respect your priorities. And number 3, also have their own priorities where God is first. And if God is head of your relationship, then you got a solid foundation at the end of the day. So hide yourself so much in God that you are able to have discernment, that you are able to sustain from your fleshly desires, and that you are able to be obedient in that relationship that God has brought to you, or in that relationship that maybe even Satan brought to you, right? To distract you. But you're going to be so hidden in God that you're not going to be able to be distracted. And if you are distracted, you're going to be able to put that thing aside, to go back to your number 1 love, which is God. So hopefully this helps. I know it's long.